Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fire 5 at Phoenix. Today, we're talking about physical health. It's been a little while since we recorded the last one. We're both now in different countries. I'm only here temporarily, but Nassim is now in Tunisia, ready for the season. The season's almost started, hasn't it? Almost.
Yeah, pretty much has started. Yeah, gradually getting into it.
Slowly. So we're both in different locations this for this episode, but we're talking about physical health. Got the questions in front of me, so should we just get straight into it?
Do it.
Okay. So first question: How do you? And I guess this isn't specifically aimed at either one of us. How do you restrain yourself when you're injured? Do you know what your limit is when it comes to recovery? Do you want to answer this one first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So yeah, I think it's really important to know the kind of not always severity of your injury, but like how deep is the injury. So when at the start of the summer when I hurt my hip, and I remember I was saying to you that I can feel that something's wrong in my hip, and through seasons and through training you'll get like small pains, but you won't always be one. They might just go by themselves, but you can tell when ones aren't what they should be and how they should feel. So I think it's important to definitely know know the severity of your injury, and if you think it's anything deeper than you should be, go get it checked out and take it easy for sure. Like once I knew about my hip, like I pulled back from all training completely. Wanted to make sure you don't want to injure it any deeper, make it any worse, and by playing through it, you can end up putting yourself in a position where you're going to end up missing even more time now to recover from the injury that you've pushed and caused to be worse. So I think knowing that, kind of knowing your body and knowing when something isn't right and when something needs to be checked out is very important.
And it's hard, isn't it? Because I guess there's that element of if you go and get it checked out, you worry about hearing something that you don't want to hear, that you're going to end up being out for the season. And I know with teams, they tend to be overcautious, quite rightly, to protect you as the
Yeah.
player, but also just thinking bigger picture for the team as well. So, but it is that balance of getting it checked out so you get the right treatment and the right physio plan early
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, like my one was with the summer, that I wanted to make sure that I did everything to be prepared for the start of the season instead of playing through it, and then you end up missing maybe the start of the season when it can be hard to kind of fit yourself back in the team once you've missed the kind of the first few months of the season. So it's I think it's overlooked. A lot of players do play through injuries and do end up worse, like making it worse. Like you see that with a lot of NBA players that just try and play through it, and then they end up missing up a whole bigger chunk of time than
Mm.
they would have if they had just got it checked out and sorted straight away.
It's different, isn't it, when it's your profession and it's paying your bills, you do need to think a little bit more like a little bit more seriously than I guess someone like me that's just like, well, I'll just take a couple of days off and then just get back into the flow of it or just go and do something completely different. Whereas you've got that training plan, you've got that commitment, and also that is this is your career.
But when you did strongwoman, you had time frames for your events and for your competitions that were also important to work around.
Yeah, and I think I was pretty fortunate actually in the time that I was competing. My biggest injury, the one that caused me the biggest amount of problems, was the last time I competed. So
When they put you into retirement.
forced forced a very early retirement. I think what it did was I think it kind of I think the timing of it, because that last competition was just before I went self-employed. So I think it just really made me stop and think that actually going into self-employment where you don't get sickness pay, where you can't kind of make some of those decisions that you can make when you've got that security, it was, and I think I was probably already on kind of on the edge of making that decision anyway, just because timing more than anything, you can't compete at that level and start a new business and you were starting your GCSEs, which needed to be a priority for the next sort of 9 months. So for me, I was kind of already edging on that. It was, I guess, some might say the universe was sending me the sign to say, okay, this is it, time to ease off. So
While I was in Tunisia, wasn't it, that it happened?
sorry.
It was while I was in Tunisia that it happened, wasn't it? 'Cause I remember coming back and you saying that
Yeah, I think it
you
was. It was the last. It was at England's English Strongest Woman, and it was such a great competition. And I really loved all of the events that were lined up. They were really good events for me as well. Um, and it was, I'd kind of gone back into it after doing Europe. So it's like, okay, let's just go and do another round and see what happens. So I'd done the regionals, had gone to England, and it was up at a music festival. So it was such an amazing atmosphere. There were really big crowds, which we're seeing now in the sport, but back then you wouldn't get the crowds, you'd kind of get family and friends, and then that was it. But it was held at, I think it was Bloodstock Music Festival. So there was, loads of people kind of stopping and watching, and the events were all good. I pulled my back in that first event, but the last event was a monster truck pull, and I was so adamant that I wanted to do it, which probably wasn't the best idea, but just kind of took some painkillers, and the physio checked me out, and yeah, just kind of cracked on with it really, which probably wasn't the best idea, but no regrets, as they say.
yeah.
Which kind of leads, actually, I think we might have almost just answered the second question. So the second question is, would I ever do strong woman again? So I
See
think it
that the
probably
question says for Zoe, so no, it's not for me.
specifically,
I
just
don't
in
think
case
I've ever
that.
done strong women. Yeah.
Would you be tempted to do any kind of training like that?
I, when I go to the gym, I have a day where I do my PBs, but I'm not a heavy lifter. I don't know. I also know I also couldn't see myself bulking out to be able to compete. So no, I don't think so. I think that would completely, in a way, like change how I'd play because I don't play particularly with my strength per se. So
Yeah,
it
it
would it
would
would be
completely change the dynamic of your
yeah.
training because it would completely conflict with basketball training. So, I mean, I know you have played with guys that do not strong man, strong woman, but do powerlifting and are
Yeah.
kind of like they are built for that sort of heavy lifting. But it does the two don't being athletic and fast on the court or being a big
Yeah, the
doesn't
people
necessarily.
the people that I've seen that have done it have normally come back and being a lot bigger, not necessarily like fat, but like just being a lot muscly bigger, and it's completely changed the way they play. They're not as fast as they used to be. The dynamics of their shot is different, like and it takes time to adjust to, and a lot of those guys have now bulked down to do their cut, and they've kind of in a way returned to normal, and also like their basketball game has adapted now to them, but
Yeah.
it's definitely I can't even imagine the
Muscle's
struggle.
heavy. You can't, it makes it much harder to, I always joke about not enjoying running. But muscle is heavy. It's heavy to run, even though you might be in a leaner body and you might not carry as much like body fat. It's hard to
Yeah,
run. So you can't jump and rebound and all of those other things that are really important for your sport. So
yeah.
there's no, despite the beard, then there's no strong man in
I'd
the.
have to do my beards a whole lot bigger than what it is now to fit in and be a part of the culture.
It got the beard, but not the strength. So I guess I think I've answered the question. I think for me, initially my decision to step away from competing was timing and priorities more than anything else. So you were going into your GCSE year, which I wanted to be at home in the evenings, more to be there to keep an eye on you, but
Yeah, I
to
didn't
a
want you there. I
point.
wanted you to do well.
No, but to be fair, you were doing a lot of your revision in school anyway, so it didn't
Yeah, in
actually.
school or I remember before the GCSEs, it was Ramadan, so I'd get home from revision, sleep, eat, and then do my proper revision. But I hate studying. If you went there, I probably would have. I had to leave my phone in the other room, but I wouldn't have done that if you went there.
think I mean, ultimately, it's you get to that age where like you've got to take that responsibility for it. But I think also I just wanted to make sure that I was around just in case. And I think that sort of 2 years before, 3 years before, where I was competing and more active, I think you were really supportive in kind of the fact that I wasn't, what was out of the house that little bit more, and it felt like actually it was a good time to kind of step away from that and kind of change the priorities a little bit. Would I ever go back to it? I don't know. Like, I mean, I had a conversation with somebody recently. We were talking about, going back into sort of a more local competition, but I can't get those weights anymore. Even to step in and not necessarily compete but be a part of the competition, even like the novice categories, I'm not lifting those weights anymore, so it would mean that I would
Does
have
it
to.
does it shock you looking back on what weights you were lifting, like, and seeing them now? I
Yeah, for
bet.
sure. And I think although it creeps up and you're obviously working on it and you're kind of getting up, you build up on those numbers. I know what training I would need to do to get back to those numbers again. And like, while I loved the discipline of the training and the routine and all of the things that came with that, I've got that discipline and training and plan for other stuff now, and I wouldn't be able to juggle. I wouldn't be able to give the energy and attention it needed to be able to do that, because if I did, I'd have to take it away from something else, and yeah, I wouldn't be prepared to do that at
I
this.
don't have the time to do that at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I could make time, but it would mean I would have to deprioritize something else, and actually I've got things that I want to achieve. So yeah, I wouldn't want to.
But
it
I'm
would
away from
it would
you at the
feel like a
moment. If you
distraction.
do it.
Say again.
You're not going to see me around for a while, so that's a little bit less time you've got now on your end.
Well, it is, but it's surprising. Like, the older you've got, the less time, like you. I was going to like take, demand, consume. I'm not quite sure what the right word is, because you kind of do your own thing anyway. So yeah, it's different. So this next question, if you had to choose three things from your weekly health activities or routines, what would they be and why? You
Hmm.
can you can go first.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Trying to think of like my three more important things. So like I would say obviously training is probably the number one. Does that count? Is that health and activity or such routine? Would that training be one, or is it its own thing?
Yeah, I think it's open to interpretation.
Obviously I'd put my training, not necessarily the team training, the hour you get in before or after, where you're working on your shot and sharpening your tools. That's kind of the thing that makes me feel the best throughout the week and throughout games and training. Gym work, like even after a game, sometimes like I like to just go and like take it like a really light lift, like or the day after, like a small load, just to kind of keep me fresh. Any kind of injuries I may have picked up the day before, I can kind of build up again. And I'm not sure about the third one, but maybe like maybe I do drink a lot of water. I think that always when I train and I haven't drunk enough water, like, I can feel it, and I can feel that I feel dehydrated, even if it's just a little bit. So I think those are the three most important things for me.
And would you describe one of those as being critical?
What do you mean by that?
No, it says which of these would be the most critical?
Oh, which of these would be?
Hmm.
Definitely the first one. The little trainings after the like getting reps up, getting shots up, working on your handle, practicing free throws. Like I think those make me feel the most kind of well rounded out of all of them. Because if my shot feels good and I've done things in the week that that I would do in games, it kind of becomes second nature.
Hmm. Is that something that
Well,
everybody does, or is that tend to be more the pro athlete?
depends. I think there's a lot of people that really, well, people that really want to go where they want to go, they'll put in the extra time. Um, like definitely, like you could see it, like when when I was at Met, like we would be there in the mornings, sometimes after school, because people really wanted to play and people wanted to get better. But it depends. Like if you've got the situation where you can do that, then a lot of people will. But then in England, you don't always get those slots to shoot unless you're in an academy. Like if you're in the juniors, like under 14, under 16, you're still in secondary school, but you're not quite in the academy yet. You don't always get those slots to keep working on yourself.
I'd imagine there's some people who do get that opportunity but don't take it either.
Sure. We don't worry about them. We don't worry about them though.
So I guess for me, three things. I'm fairly routine. So while I've been out here, the routine has been slightly different. So the weather's been not great the last couple of days, but thankfully there's an exercise bike here which I've been able to jump on. So I think the walking is really important for me. I think
Yeah, you got to listen to a podcast or music and just
yeah, I've
walk.
had Audible, mostly Audible while I'm walking because it's a good opportunity to kind of take that on. So like so the walking is really important because it just gives me that time out. So it's like slower pace. I'm moving, but it's more like a active recovery, I guess, rather than feeling like it's an exercise. Back at home, the spin classes are great for me because I know that my heart's being worked, and I think after cardio, you do get that kind of buzz of kind of working at that level. But then I also still like lifting as well, and although it's a very different feeling after a lifting session, you don't necessarily get the heart rate and the sweat that you get with cardio. You do get that, like, it's more for me, I guess it's more of that internal kind of stronger feeling. So I think that those are the kind of the three things that balance around that. the I didn't mention rest and sleep, but for me that's kind of quite critical for
Yeah, I
me,
didn't either. Yeah.
just because like my days can be quite long, and for me to kind of have enough energy to be able to get up, work, go to the gym, and then do the client work and still have energy like 7, 8 o'clock at night for clients is really important. So the rest of the sleep and the downtime is probably most critical in terms of my routine. I think I definitely feel the difference. Like you say with the hydration, I mean, that's important to me too, but I think I feel the most different if I've not had enough rest and sleep.
Yeah, I definitely second that. Definitely.
Okay. All right. Next question. So a lot of young people give up sport in their teens. Were you ever tempted? And what made you kind of push through that and continue?
Hmm. I wouldn't say to quit, but there were like a lot of times where I'm like, is this really going anywhere? Like, am I just wasting my time? Have I just wasted my time? Because I think from the first 3 years, like I really started to play and really started to love it. Like, kind of put 2 feet deep in and just kind of went all out with it. And I think the first time would have been after when I broke my leg and I come back and was quite out of shape. Wasn't didn't eat well during that period, but came back and I wasn't playing good. I couldn't really find myself like as a player. And then kind of just like kind of just second guessing yourself, but then I just put my head down and kind of just got through it because I was like, well, I've done this much and I've gone this far. I might as well just ride it out and see where it goes, and it end up going well. And when during my time at Reading as well, like I was it was a big step up in terms of competition level from what I was used to. A lot better players, better league, and then I was like, oh, like this is really for me, like like have I just all those hours I put in, like were they just like for nothing really? Because there were a lot of guys there that I felt like I was putting in more hours and more work than them, and they were still like a lot better than me, and I couldn't figure out what to do about it. But then I kind of just played the long game, kind of just stuck it out, wrote it out, did what I could to make myself better during that time, and eventually it paid off especially in the next season and then the next few seasons. But I wouldn't say there's been like a time where I wanted to quit. Like it was like, I'm done with basketball. I don't want to play anymore. There's never been that, and hopefully it stays that way. But yeah.
Do you think you'd be as active as you are if you weren't playing professionally?
Oh, playing professionally. Oh, I
If
think
you
that like
if
playing.
you weren't, if that ambition to be professional wasn't there, do you think
I love to play basketball. Like I would still go to all the scrimmages in the summer, and I'd still go and shoot and work just because I enjoy playing and being around basketball. So I would, but if I didn't play basketball, I don't know. There's never really been another sport for me other than maybe athletics. But even like you said, running's really boring, and I run long distance, so it wasn't intense close races. Normally it was like just you just kind of just running. And yeah, but if I didn't play basketball, I'd probably just go to the gym and probably be a little bit bigger, but that'd probably be it.
yeah. See, I don't remember wanting to quit sport as a teen. I remember like at school, like senior school, being involved in all of the sport that was going. And you did, and I think especially for teenage girls in sport, there's definitely a drop off, like as you get into sort of that year 9 kind of age. There was definitely just kind of like the hardcore few that would be, whether it was netball or hockey, like the winter sports, or whether it was like athletics, tennis. In the summer, you would get like the core group of like 10 people that were like just up for whatever sport
Yeah,
was on offer. And it definitely kind of filtered out as time went on. But I don't remember, think it was just such a big outlet for me that I don't remember ever thinking, even when it was like cold and wet and rainy, you kind of had those people around you that it became less about the sport and more about like that
being
team
around
element.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think, I know for me, the first time I kind of really stopped was kind of more around like just before you were born. And then it was just priorities of trying to be able to find time and any level of energy to be able to do anything, and it just wasn't there. So yeah, not in my teens, not in my teens. Okay. Right, next question. Do we train together, and do we hold each other accountable or feel inspired by the other?
Um, we have trained together,
Trained together a little bit over the summer this year, didn't
yeah, a
we?
little bit, but it's sometimes that we go to the gym together and you do your thing, I do my thing, or sometimes you're joining in what I'm lifting. I know you tried to get me to go to spin a few times, which I will go to next summer. That's a promise.
Yeah,
But
your
necessarily say
injury gave you a good excuse out of that, to be
I have,
fair.
I
So
have been to spin, I have been to spin with you though before.
yeah, that's true. You have a couple of years ago. So yeah, we did do like, and I think that was the thing, was that you had your kind of set training plan over the summer. So if I was free when you went, it made sense to come along and jump in. But then yeah, we did both kind of do our own thing a little bit, didn't we? So what about accountability? I think we did. We have had conversations over the years, haven't we? Where it's like, right, you go into the gym, and I think especially when you had your injury in the summer and you couldn't get to the gym initially, and like because you were kind of really struggling to walk, weren't you? That
Yeah.
first straight after,
Yeah.
that we had conversations with, okay, what can you do to go and I think mentally and emotionally that
It
that
was a
outlet.
workout in itself to get to walk to the end of the road to get to the gym. Yeah, no, I mean, you gave me the idea of going to the gym by us, and um, which made it. I end up going to the gym I probably missed about maybe 4 or 5 days during the whole 6 weeks that I didn't play. I was kind of in the gym every day because it's so close to the house. I didn't really have an excuse not to go, and I think your accountability led to that.
Well, yeah, and I think it kind of works both ways as well, doesn't it? I mean, I think both of us need the gym for that like and mental outlet as much as a physical outlet. So I think we both notice the grumpiness comes in a little bit if we haven't had training. And I think it's easy for me, like the accountability for me is because I've booked into classes and I book in every week. So that's kind of it's just a given that certain days I do certain classes. But I think I definitely your commitment to it in terms of, the inspiration part of the question, I think yeah, your commitment to it, especially over the summer, because it can be really easy for you to sort of say, oh, it's off season, I'm just going to chill. And I know you've done that in other years a little bit more and for the first week or two, and then you'll give yourself like that holiday break, and then it's like, right,
That's
straight
my
back into
holiday.
it.
One or 2 weeks off, and then straight back
Yeah, and
to.
I think I really admire that. I know that you've got prep for next season, but I think it would be quite easy to just kind of dial it down a little bit. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say that I was inspired by you when you had your strong women events and competitions because you were competing at a national level that I'd never been to at the time. So yeah, that definitely was. Thought you was pretty cool.
It's a bit different, isn't it, when and I know that, in that the kind of a situation where with your mate, when you're with your mates and things like that, and then there's kind of, me kind of going off and doing stuff. But yeah, I guess it's a bit different. Guess everybody's parents have got a thing, haven't they?
Yeah, not always.
It's just something a little bit different.
Awkward.
Okay, last question. I wonder if we might have asked this a little bit, but I guess we'll ask it anyway. So, aside from your training, what else do you do to look after your physical health?
Kind of what we talked about earlier, but the sleep. The sleep is. If I'm tired, I will not be in a good mood, and not being in a good mood means I go into training already not in a good mood, and your head's kind of clouded in a way. But it's funny. It's hard because there's a lot of things you don't always get to go to bed early, but I really do try and make an effort to kind of be in bed at like 11, 10, so I can make sure I get at least 8 hours. Because depending on what time I've got to wake up the next day,
Mm,
get that. And I know you do the same thing. I mean, you're normally in bed by 10, half nine.
try.
Try
I
to.
try, but it's hard though. It's hard to get everything done and get that rest in. I had a good lie in this morning, which was quite nice. I mean, I don't set an alarm. That's one of the because I have the first couple of hours of my day. I'm working. I don't need to get up for a particular time, although occasionally I do. But the majority of the time, I don't have to get up at a particular time. So if I do go to bed a little bit later, my body will just naturally wake up, although it does tend to wake up a little bit earlier. But yeah, it'd be rest and sleep for me as well. And I think it's not just the sleep, it's they're having that downtime, of doing things at a slower pace. And yeah, so I guess that's why the walking is really good for me. It's a slower pace out here, which is kind of really nice. But I think actually that downtime, and certainly I talk to people about not just the rest and the recharge. I think most people are really aware that it's really important to rest and recharge your batteries, but actually it's the rejuvenation kind of downtime as well, the things that kind of not just recharge your battery, but kind of take you up to that next level and energize you, I think is really important. So the re-energize and rejuvenate is really important. And I think especially it for you, like where looking after your physical health is part of your work as much it is a part of your like mental, physical, emotional health. I think having things that you enjoy doing and making sure that you kind of prioritize that stuff in is really important.
Yeah.
So are we both in agreement on rest and sleep?
Yeah. And it's funny because the only reason I set an alarm today was for this. I could very well still be asleep if
Oh, very honoured that you would set your alarm to make sure you're up for this. I mean, it's a
well,
good seg.
I'll invoice you for my time.
Is yeah. Just send it on through. And it's a good segue because it's the topic for the next podcast as well. So it's a big topic, rest and sleep. So I'm sure there'll be lots of questions that come through. But in terms of physical health, that is the five at Phoenix questions for this episode. We will
It was
keep.
like three of those
Sorry.
questions disguised. It was like three questions, just like disguised as like multiple questions in itself. So I'd say we'd,
Yeah,
cover them.
there was a couple in there which had little follow-up ones. So
Yeah.
it's a good topic, and I guess from both of our both of our well, your present experience and my past experiences, it's a good topic for us to discuss. I'm looking at the other topics that are coming up, and I think some of them will probably be a bit more challenging for us to answer, but that's the fun of doing these. So next episode will be on rest and sleep. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask us, send them our way, either through our social channels. We will post up at different times to invite you to ask those questions, or just get in touch by commenting on wherever you are watching this, and we will add them to the list to answer for the next episode. But thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Nassim, as always, and we will be back
Pleasure.
with another episode very soon.